Welcome to the Committee of the Whole Council meeting for Thursday, May 28th, 2026. Before we begin our meeting, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We recognize the deep and ongoing relationship the Mi'kmaq have with this land, and we honor their history, culture, and contributions. We welcome all those who live, work, and play in Stewiacke, and we strive to uphold the spirit of respect and unity in our community. I call tonight's meeting to order at 7 p.m. In attendance, we have all councillors present. Our CAO, Mark Sigan, is absent. We have Aaron Richard in his place today. We also have Helen Young, the Director of Corporate Services, and Jacob McPherson, our Town Planner. Are there any requested changes to tonight's agenda? Now, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I'd make the motion to approve the committee of the whole agenda as presented for Thursday, May 28th.
I can have a seconder, invite Mayor Glasser, and all in favor?
Oh.
All right. Are there any disclosures of interests on the agenda? There seem to be none. Are there any questions or approval of minutes from the previous meeting? Are there any questions or changes required to the meetings for the committee of the whole from April 23rd? None. There are no announcements, there are no presentations, there are no written petitions and correspondence. I'll start with asking for citizen comments. If you wish to speak, please state your name and where you're from. So are there any citizens that would like to comment? None, and there's none online. We'll move into item number 10, which is business. The CAO report, I'll hand it over to Aaron.
All right, everybody, I'll summarize Mark's report for you guys tonight in books online. So Public Works report, the water tank maintenance project started on the 19th of May and will be approximately 6 weeks to complete. The town of Stewiacke's water system operates off of 2 water towers. During the project, the maintenance would require the town to operate off of 1 tank at a time, which may impact water pressure. During this time, residents are asked to engage in water conservation efforts and report any issues that are coming to your home to the town. We're on the water treatment plan design project. So council signed off on the grid report and funding in March. Staff would release a request for proposal for design and project management services. So that RFP opened on the 2nd of April. The RFP is set to close on June 4th, and then that'll come to in June. High tide, low tide, road pump station project planning is underway. The physical improvements will start in July. So mobilization will start July 6th, and at the end of that should be about July 22nd for demobilization. The diesel generator, we had a leak in our diesel generator on Joffrey Street. This was updated to council in January, and we are thankfully able to start our work on June the 10th and 11th on this project. And then summary from community services, summer day camp and summer sports are at capacity. We've hired 7 summer staff members. Parks and grounds staff members started May 19th. So if you see Alan out there mowing the lawns, looks much better that way. Our flag raising will happen with a picnic on June 17th, celebration of Pride in Dennis Park. After school care for the next school year is open for enrollment. The end of school bash that the rec department holds at the community center is June the 26th at 6 p.m. And the towns receive funding for 1 summer student through Canada Summer Jobs. Are there any questions that I can?
I just want to say, because I've had a few people ask where our towers are, that we have one on St. Andrews at our water treatment plant where the water gets processed, and one's up on Tower Road.
Councilor Osborne?
Just a question about the summer student.
Yes.
Is it an 8-week funding or
Yes.
12?
8.
No further questions? We'll move on to 10B. Council meeting date, and I'll hand that over to Mayor Glasser.
I brought up the July council meeting, because two of us are gonna be away. Deputy Mayor Lutz will be away for the July 23rd meeting, and so will I. I understand that we have three council members still present, but I feel that we should wait for any decisions to have all five of us here. So I'm making a recommendation that we move our council meeting from July the 23rd to July the 16th. Any questions?
I'm on vacation that week, July 16th, so I will not be available for that meeting.
Are you making that a motion?
Yeah, well, I would like to make a motion that we
Yeah.
move our July meeting to July the 16th. From the 23rd.
And, am I looking for a seconder? Okay, is there a seconder for that motion? There seems to be no seconder.
All right,
It stands at July 23rd.
perfect.
All right, item number 10C is the draft budget, and I will hand that over to Helen. Thank you. Okay, let me see if you can bring up, those slides, please.
So the discussions from council meeting on April the 23rd, gone back and revised the budget, so we'll go through those discussions line by line. Just to see where everybody's at and if there's any further discussions needed. So the first line item, council professional development. There's no change in there, that remains at the 5,000. Any further discussion
Can I just
required
ask,
on that?
Councilor, go ahead.
just for clarification, I thought we made a motion on this back in our April meeting.
We did not.
They were just recommendations.
Okay.
So that would stand. Council travel other, increased by $3,500.
Mayor Glasser?
I've talked to many of the residents, and one of the comments that we've had at our last meeting was they felt that the councils should be very similar to what the mayor's is. We have a council of 4 councilors, we have 2 councilors that can attend and 2 councilors that can't. If you add up the budget the way it sits right now, it leaves the 2 councilors that are able to attend $3,750 each, and my budget is $3,800. The comment was that it should be very similar to the mayor's, and the way it sits, it is. So my recommendation is we do not add the $3,500 based on us asking our residents, to give up this and to give up that. We as council shouldn't be adding to what we want. I gave $3,500 back off of my budget, and all we're doing is taking $3,500 from my old budget and putting it down to the council budget, and I don't agree with that.
Go ahead, Councilor LeBlanc.
There's a lot of discussion about it, and I know there are some individuals who feel that the 35 should be removed. But I've met other people who think the 3,500 should remain. There are strong feelings on either side. And well, just because we think there may be 2 councillors who cannot attend or will not attend meetings, doesn't mean they may change their minds sometime down the road. So I would recommend, in light of what some people have told me, and I've had pros and cons, that it remain at 3,500 in the budget.
Any other, Mayor Glasser?
In our budget, we've already approved, if that's the way it is, and we're gonna add 3,500, and there's 4 councilors. We're gonna have to take the money from the councilors and separate it by councilor, take the whole budget and divide it by 4 and say, this much is for this counselor, this much is for this counselor, this much is for this counselor, because we've already got in our budget that one counselor can be, one counselor to go to NSFM, and we are budgeted for that. If we have the $3,500, it's going to mean that people can go to more than one event, which isn't fair unless we divide it by counselor.
Well, I disagree with you.
You're allowed to.
Each counselor should have the opportunity to go to the federation meetings if they wish, and if you don't wish to go, that's fair enough too.
Councillor Austin.
I don't believe that's how the policy
It
states.
says,
It says, if I may,
you may.
the policy actually states, regarding the NSFM, it doesn't state one counselor. It actually talks about council members, which includes the mayor. So I just want to make clarification on that. We've also received emails, all of us, from residents who have said they're fine with the small amount of expenses that occur for counselors. But since we're on the topic, I would like to address a couple of things that have been online regarding my expenses. My expenses are very transparent. I use my own credit card, so therefore my expenses show the true cost of what I expense, where other members use the town credit card, and it is not shown. So my expenses are actually, may even be lower than some others. So I did want to put that on the record, and I'm glad that the mayor has brought that topic to the table. As far as whether or not a person can go to a meeting or not, or a conference or not, that is up to that individual. Originally, the deputy mayor was chosen to go to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So that would have been an opportunity lost for that person if we reduce this budget. Right now, we're reducing it from 6,000 to 3,500. We're already reducing it by $2,500. And it doesn't mean that it has to be expended. And if there's money left over, then it would go into the reserves.
In the MGA, it says that the council members are allowed to go when and if the municipality can afford it. We, as a municipality, are struggling, and I just feel that it is a budget line that is unnecessary. And as for your expenses, I agree. Where my expenses, I'm on the corporate card, it doesn't get shown, and so does Councillor LeBlanc's, was both booked on the corporate card, which brings me to another thing that I wanted to address. When council members are going to any conference or whatever on behalf of the town, it should always be purchased on the corporate card, so that the corporate card gets whatever bonus points or whatever loyalty program or whatever that is available, rather than the individual counselor being able to use it, because I know all my credit cards are a loyalty program. I'm sure everybody else's are, and I believe that it should go back to the town rather than to an individual counselor.
Councillor Osborne.
I'm not gonna belabor this because I think it should probably go to bylaw and policy. And as well as it is not in the MGA, it is in our policy regarding council expenses,
Yes, it is there as well.
so. But I think this should go back to bylaw, see for discussion.
Councillor Rogers.
This has been brought forward to bylaw and policy. We're in the early stages of discussions regarding travel, hotel expenses, etc., to see if there is something that should be written in the policy that states perhaps a hotel isn't necessary within a certain amount of kilometers, that you could make the drive as opposed to spending $300 in a hotel room. So just on a side note, this is in the works and being discussed at the bylaw and policy already.
And I think that's where the discussion should go.
It is presently in the bylaw right now. It says when the municipality can afford But that's enough of that.
So with this discussion, how are we going to proceed? Are we going to make a motion or are we gonna leave things as is?
We'll just have a vote, you know, in regard to whether we want to leave the 3,500 or we don't. If the majority rules, it'll get taken out. If it doesn't, it'll remain.
I know for me personally, I will not be going to anything, so to me, whatever portion of my expenditures can go back into the. You know, I don't. My work flexibility is not there.
So what my recommendation would be that if counselors, and I know that a few disagree, counselors have separate budgets the same as I do. You take your counselor budget and you give each counselor a line.
Is that exactly true?
The council is put together. I'm the only one on a separate line.
Okay, let's get that straight.
Yeah.
You're the only one on a separate line.
And I did say that. I said, I'm on a separate line, counselors aren't, you guys are all together. Put all the counselors on a separate line with equal budgets.
I can agree with that. That's not what you said it was.
That's when it's already.
I
Counselor Osborne.
I think maybe this is I think we've agreed that we're gonna move this to the bylaw and policy committee meeting, so I'm just gonna go around and ask if we do want to keep this item line as is at 35. So, can we just, can I just go around and ask if we'd like to keep it as is or?
I would leave
adjust
it at 3,500 if it got separated by counselors.
I will refer the 3,500 to bylaw and policy. That's where I'm going, yeah.
Councilor Osborne?
Same, we'll refer to bylaw and policy.
Okay, and
Leave it.
Councilor Rogers, so we'll refer that to, so we're going to leave it as is and refer it to bylaw and policy.
Mhm.
Okay. Next line item was the 48,000 for a project coordinator. That has been removed from the budget.
That's what we want.
I would ask that it be added back in. If I understand that this is a position for, let me check my project coordinator. And we have a $25 million project coming online. And so my question is, who's gonna supervise the project? I thought this would be that would be that person's job to look after all our infrastructure, that kind of thing, our projects and stuff. Well, I don't know. I'm just asking.
I think we discussed this
Yeah.
at our last meeting, you
I
were
was
away,
independent,
yeah,
okay, okay.
right? So we did have an extensive discussion around this,
This was just for another employee.
yeah, it would be for like an additional person, and so it's going to be absorbed into, is that correct?
Well, what, it says project coordinator, what's that mean?
It wasn't worded.
It's an
necessarily.
administrative
Yeah,
role. It's not the same as an
My apologies.
engineering role, and that is town needs as an engineer.
And, okay, my apologies then.
I think that's a good discussion for that one.
Okay, next line item, special projects, bump this back up from 8,600 to 96 for the refreshments. Further discussion here, good.
Go ahead.
Rec committee, 14,000 is the revision.
That's not me though, that was Mayor Glasser. You've got my name by it.
Oh, the, for the rec committee?
Yeah.
Discussion.
Oh, so my apologies. Discussion. Downtown decorating has been reduced to $750. Stands. TC PEP will be $13,445 as original. Under the administrative line, our CAO received an increase, so therefore his rumination and burdens needed to be revised. So under the administrative lines, the CAO remuneration has increased from $115,120 to $126,642. Federal benefits have increased from $5,542 to $7,042. The pension has increased from $10,683 to $12,739. And WCB will increase from $27,759 to $29,610. Under transportation and public works, garage lights from $1,500 to $3,000. Garage heat from $1,255 to $3,447. Equipment fuel from $6,100 to $16,500. That's based largely on our year to dates at the end of March 31st, which were a little over $11,000. And of course, with the increased cost of fuel, I mean, it's kind of like anybody's guess where that's going to land on any given day, unfortunately. Street lights will increase from $34,980 to $36,730. The revisions are based on March 31st year to dates. So that's why those numbers have been revised.
Councillor Osborne, go ahead.
So if we add streetlights, then that cost is gonna go up, correct?
Oh, yes, if we add more streetlights, the cost goes up.
Are there any further questions for, on the budget?
On that section,
Revisions? No, okay.
slide error. Good, perfect. Under environmental health, the sewer lift station power was originally $8,480. I've increased that to $9,493. Again, that's based on our actual year to date at March 31st, 2026. Recreation and culture. Community center heating, $11,112. It's going to increase to about $25,493. Again, based on the year-to-date actuals and the increased cost of heating fuel. Again, which is anybody's guess where that's going to land.
The community center run off oil.
Yes, does, yeah. And just so we're clear, when we talk about the community center, that also includes the fire department as well. So that heating cost is included in there too. Under fiscal services, the Jeffrey Street refurbishment was originally $35,000. 8,750 of that belonged on the water utility budget, so I've moved that portion over to the water utility budget. So with all those revisions, we're left with a surplus of $12,735. Under the, is there any discussion before we move on to the next section?
I have a few questions, but I can wait.
All right. Under the general capital for 28-29, we've basically removed fitness center, ball field, and pump track for $560. And that is it for revisions. Questions?
Go ahead, Councillor Osborne.
So, questions, comments, I guess, really. We often hear, I've been hearing a lot, comments such as we're broke. So are we broke?
Let's be clear, we're not broke. We are maintaining all of our current debt. The gap, of course, would be when we run into the capital, that's where the gap is, but we are putting plans in place to address that. Constantly monitor the government funding that's coming out. We do have some borrowing options that we could also tap into for that. But the town is not bankrupt, it's not broke, we're just in a tight spot, that's all.
And we're putting roughly 1.4 million into reserves from our
Correct.
total budget of around 4 million. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So just kind of two other comments. So the amalgamation issue, I know it's still very much top of mind of a lot of residents. If we were to be able to source out a company that could do a survey or a focus group, that maybe could be a dual role of amalgamation, look at amalgamation plus the vision of the town, what people want. If we were able to get that for around $25,000 at some point, would we have the funds to be able to do that?
We have funds, I just know what's the politically correct way to answer that, because that's not included in our budget.
Right.
But if that was something that went to council, maybe through a special resolution or something like that, then
Yeah.
yes, we could come up with cash flow
Yeah.
to fund that.
Okay. I'm just thinking if there's, funding that may come out that it might have to be cost shared or
Yeah.
something like that, would we be able to do that?
Yes, yeah.
All I know.
So where will we go from here? Are we going to make a motion to recommend this budget to council at our next meeting or like a meeting in June?
I think we should make a motion to accept the budget as put forth with the exception of the counselor expenses that will go to bylaws and it can get approved at a later date.
I don't know if we can approve a budget that way.
You can approve a budget with an exception.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, we have bills we have to pay, so we need to get some of this budget approved.
Okay, I'm not opposed to approving the budget, but you just can't take things out.
Councilor Osborne.
So it's my understanding that through the MGA, that we are able to expend up to 50% of our budget, which takes us till September. Is that correct?
We can spend up to 50% of our budget, yes.
My other question is regarding a very less than 1.1% of the budget of $3,500. Is that going to break us if we move forward with a budget with the $3,500 in it and revise it later?
No, it's 35.
I would move forward, with- as Councilor Osborne just said, I would move forward with the budget as is.
And I would second
So is there an official motion on the floor to recommend this?
I'll make a motion with the budget forward as presented.
Which budget? The general operating?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, because there's more than one. Sorry, guys, I'm stuttering. Yes, I move that I make a motion that we move to approve our general operating budget for the town of Stuart as presented.
it. And I will support the mayor, I'll second it.
All right, any further,
Clarification.
oh, yes, go ahead.
You're recommending to council, right?
I'm at part.
Sorry.
I am making a motion to council that we approve the general operating budget as presented.
So you're recommending that it go to the council meeting in June?
Correct.
Okay, and we've had a seconder. Are there any other comments before I ask, all in favor? All in favor?
All right.
Okay.
One down.
I would like to make another motion. that we approve the water utility operation budget as presented.
We're gonna go through this a little or no?
There were no changes to it.
The only change was, Councilor Osborne was the amount that I moved
8750.
for Joffrey Street, 8750.
So when are we up for a water rate study? Is it after the project? Is it before the project? Is it,
Before the project.
but it's not in this fiscal year?
Yes, it is in this fiscal year.
Okay, where do I not, why do I not see that amount? Cause that can be substantial studies. Nope. That's only 20. Yeah, 20,000, is that it? Bottom of the second page of.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
okay, and that should be enough?
that should be enough.
I'll second your motion.
Okay.
Any further questions? All in favor? Good. Oh, capital
The
budget.
capital budgets. There have been no revisions to the capital budget.
Are there any questions? Yes, Councilor Osborne.
Is our grid funding in here?
For,
Like for,
the only thing we have grid funding for
is the
is for the design.
sign?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's all we have grid funding
Okay.
for.
and that's not. This is all capital. Okay. Do we have enough in the capital for our paving program and for potholes that are getting deeper by the day?
Well, some of those potholes are actually covered through the general road maintenance.
Okay.
So that looks after a lot of pothole situations, but actual paving is all in the general pattern.
Are we actually looking to do a new build of the town hall this coming fiscal year, $2 million?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we have to, we have no choice, we have to do something. We can't stay here. Right now, staff goes around every hour into every room, every minute that this building is occupied to make sure there are no fires or anything. So, yeah. We have to.
Okay.
And in saying that, we have to split the library as well, find space for them to.
If they don't, then we.
You see, a few people show looking through the paper, so I'm just waiting in case there's any other questions. Councilor LeBlanc, are you good for questions?
Yes, no,
Alright,
thank
so-
you very much.
We will, motion for the capital budget to be approved.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to council. The water utility capital budget for 2026-27 and. The general capital budget for 26-27.
Can I have a seconder? Councilor LeBlanc. Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
All right.
That it for? Okay,
Tell us, is there a 3-year capital budget that we approve as well? Yes.
Yes.
I just did that. Because I combined both of them
Did you combine?
in my motion
And
and general capital
for this fiscal.
for 26-27 budget. That's what I said.
Okay. I just thought that there was presented in our package a 3-year capital budget as well.
That's all that we had was the 3 year.
Yeah.
We didn't have any other, but the 3 years. If I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's all I have in my package. Okay.
1, 2, and 3,
Yeah,
it's all
your
combined.
budget.
Okay. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. Okay, we're moving on to, item number 11. Planning Advisory Committee, I will hand it over to Mayor Glasser.
And I will hand it over to Jacob.
Thanks very much. And see if we can get a presentation, awesome. And I'll just gesture over to you with my highlighter. I'm trying to change the slide, but yeah, good evening, everybody. So here to present what's been going through PAC, which is an application to permit the assembly use. So we'll get right into it. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this is the subject property, so it's at 670 Highway 2, it's the Summit Vehicle Storage Building, so you can see it's just out of town, fronts on Highway 2, it's a vineyard as well as a vehicle storage use on that property, so here's an excerpt from the town zoning map, so you can see here that the town is, or sorry, that the property is in the R4 zone, that's the rural residential zone. So just a bit of background. So initially, the applicant came with us with a request to permit a place of assembly use at the property. And so, you know, the general plan is that that building that you can see there in red would be turned into a space for people to gather and host events. They have applied for a temporary event permit in FAST. And so they're looking to make it permanent. And so the way that we decided to approach this was to permit the place of assembly use in the R4 zone. And now rural lots can be pretty effective for this kind of use. So, you know, typically those lots tend to be much larger, which makes it a lot easier for parking and having enough space to accommodate large crowds. And as well, they tend to be further out of town, but not in all cases. And when these properties are further out of town, there's less concern with disturbing neighbors because the neighbors are further away. And since you're further out of town, there's just a lower chance for disturbance. So this went through the Planning Advisory Committee and they provided us with some of their concerns. So we sort of started to outline the structure of how we would address the concerns of permitting this kind of use. And so after staff had presented that proposal, PAC asked staff to further consider some of the potential impacts of having an event space. So the first one is the traffic. So the impact that having large amounts of traffic moving in and out of an event space, usually all the time, right, starting and ending, can have on local roads. And so in the case of the property, it fronts on Highway 2, but there are properties that are zoned R4 that aren't on Highway 2. So we're asked to consider that. The next one is parking requirements. So PAC wanted to make sure that parking requirements were being met. Vehicle movement in and out of the event spaces. So again, is there enough space to accommodate the flow of traffic? You know, the COTW Community Center is a good example of this. Fronts on Highway 2, it has entrance, exit, a little bit of a town, it's got plenty of parking space. And the last one is noise. So people were concerned about the disturbance to existing residential neighborhoods. Because some residential neighborhoods are zoned R4, just like the subject property is, so. These considerations can broadly be broken up into 3 categories, which I'll be looking at before moving on to the solution. So the 3 are traffic, safety, and noise. So starting off with the traffic considerations, PAC's impression was that the subject property would be an appropriate place to have an event space, since it's on Highway 2. Whereas there are some R4 zone properties that are on local roads in residential areas, and as a result, they would not be appropriate. There was also sort of concerns about higher traffic volumes on those roads, adequate parking space, as well as being able to get in and out of the event space without too much difficulty. The second was safety concerns, and so one of the suggestions was to have multiple points of for traffic flow. So again, use the example of the Student Community Center. It's got 2 ways that you can get into it, and then the other one was fire protection and evacuation. So you've got a lot of people in one space, so people want to make sure in the event of an emergency that people can get out. And this is regulated by the National Fire Code. So even as a temporary event space, there are some requirements that, the space such as some vehicle storage building needed to meet, and if it's to become a permanent use, there's new requirements that it'll need to meet in order to make sure that it's safe in the event of a fire, and so everything to do with cladding and having an evacuation plan in place and these sorts of things, so. We'll move on to the third point here, which was noise considerations, and so, event spaces, if they're indoors, they're outdoors, they naturally do make a lot of noise because people are gathering. And of those spaces, outdoor concert venues were pointed out as being probably the most noisy, and that they should probably be regulated in a different way. So one of the changes that we made when this went to the planning advisory committee is that we removed that from the definition, so. Outdoor concert spaces are out of the definition, they could be regulated in other ways, but they're not included. There is another concern, and you can kind of see from the map here. There are some R4 zone properties, here's one that fronts on Highway 2, which is ideal, but it stretches all the way back to a residential part of town, and so. One of the things that they wanted to make sure is that not only that it fronts on Highway 2, but it's actually close to Highway 2. And lastly, there was some desire for consideration of, okay, what if you have an indoor space versus an outdoor space? Because when it's outdoors, sound's not contained, travels out very far, and so there was some desire to have some controls for that. The first, but this is not the only regulation that staff is recommending be placed on approving event spaces in the R4 zone, is that they do front on Highway 2, and also that they're within 250 meters of Highway 2. And so the idea with this is that you're keeping traffic volumes and noise away from local roads. You're keeping them towards an area that can support them. And so those areas are shown in bright green. And we'll be taking a closer look at those later. You can go on to the next slide. So the first set of requirements that I just described are all about deciding where an assembly use can be permitted. But the other requirements are more meant to ensure that they can function properly and safely. So the second requirement is that it has 2 or more legal access points. The third is that adequate parking is provided, and this is already really covered by the land use bylaw, so that's how that's being required. But the current requirement of the land use bylaw is that it's a space per 9.3 meters of event space. Now for events that use outdoor speakers, so any sort of outdoor amplification of sound, there is an outdoor event permit that would be part of a new bylaw. That's what staff's recommending as part of the amendments, that there would also be a new bylaw. And so the purpose of an outdoor event permit is that it's something that somebody can apply for that can be issued and revoked based on requirements that are set by council. And these requirements can include things like appropriate quiet hours, distance from neighbors, and these sort of things. Now, a permit can be valid for multiple events in a year. So if you're providing an event space where you want to have multiple events in a year, as long as you're meeting the same set of requirements that you set out, you're golden. And it also gives exemption from the noise bylaw. And I'll be talking about how the Town of Stewiacke noise bylaw isn't really designed to regulate events that are licensed by the town. So if we can just go to the next slide. This is section 7 of the Town of Stewiacke noise bylaw, and it lists all the exemptions, which include events that are licensed by the town. I've got it highlighted there. If it's an event that's licensed by the town, it's not intended to apply to that event. And as you read further into the bylaws, which make a little bit more sense as to why, if you don't have exemption from the noise bylaw, it is possible, although it's certainly not guaranteed, that any resident could build up a legal case where they say, there's this event space, it's permitted in the town, but it's causing me disturbance. So, it says here, evidence that one neighbor is unreasonably disturbed by a noise is prima facie evidence that the neighborhood is unreasonably disturbed by the noise, and this could result in a fine. So, part of what I'm trying to explain here is that as the town, if we're telling somebody who wants to start an event business, it's a permitted use, you can have it. And then they run their event use and somebody complains, we say, but we're gonna give you a fine. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And so I'll be talking about an alternative where we do keep the noise bylaw in effect, but the way that it's being recommended by staff is that you allow events that you're licensing through this permit process for them to be exempt from the requirements of the noise bylaw. Go to the next slide. So in addition to the requirements that we covered for a normal event space, there's also additional requirements for having an outdoor event space, right? So one of them is that speakers could only play during the hours that are set in section 2 of the Studiac noise bylaw. And I do have that information available if anyone would like to hear those times. But they adjust based on day of the week and holidays, these sorts of things. Another one is that the actual event area itself must be 200 feet or more away from non-participating homes. So if it's, you know, if you're running an event space that's next to your home, that's fine. But you're essentially drawing a circle around other dwellings and saying, okay, well, your event space can't be this close. Now, sound travels really far. You can hear sound from almost as far away as it doesn't get deadened by some tree or hail or anything like that. But in my research into acoustics, which my understanding is pretty basic, when something like a speaker gets really close to something like a wall, that's when you get that sort of bassy effect that can be really disruptive for people. So this is just a basic defense against that. 200 feet isn't enough to cut all noise altogether, but that's the intent of that part of the requirement. And then the last one is that it can't be open to the general public. So part of the idea is that there are parking requirements. There are things that scale based on how many people you're intending to have at your event. And so by not allowing these sort of events to be open to the general public, it's sort of a defense against, well, I didn't know how many people would come. So all these people came and there's nothing I can really do about it. So that's the purpose. There was some discussion with PAC about whether or not this should be included, but it is being recommended. So we'll go on to the next slide. So this map overall shows the places in town where you have an R4 zone that fronts on Highway 2, is within the appropriate distance from Highway 2, but you can see that there are red circles drawn around where there would be non-participating homes. So this is sort of where you end up in terms of being able to have outdoor event spaces. So if you go to the next slide, it just zooms in a little bit. I did include just for this slide the subject property, so you can get a sense of, it doesn't really cover much of the subject property. I mean, you know, you wouldn't want to have an event space right up against where that home is. That'd be pretty mean. And then if you just go to the next slide, it also shows the northern part of the town where you can see what would be permitted. So we'll just keep going along here. In terms of implementing the staff's recommendations, there would be two things to do. One would be to amend the town's land use bylaw to permit the place of assembly in the R4 zone with the conditions that were described, including when an outdoor event permit is required. And that's included in the schedule. And then the next thing would be to adopt a new outdoor event permit bylaw. And so this would be for outdoor event spaces that are going to do amplification of sound. So if you have speakers going, that's when it would apply. And there is an alternative approach. And so it would be to amend the land use bylaw as described, permitting with conditions the place of assembly use, but it would be to not adopt an outdoor events bylaw. And so there are benefits and drawbacks to this. You know, it is a more streamlined approach, and it would allow somebody to have their event space. The main concern is because the existing noise bylaw applies, it could be a circumstance in which people complain about an event space, and if that were to happen, council would have to essentially provide an exemption for them, perhaps every time that they want to host an event. And so part of the draw for having the outdoor event bylaw in place is that you're trying to provide some certainty if you're considering starting up an event business in town, that council isn't just suddenly going to say, well, we don't really want it, sorry, you can't really have your event space. Well, you can have it, but you can't run any events that make any noise. So that's sort of the intention of having the outdoor events bylaw. But the first does function without the second. So I've included two motions in case that is of use to the committee of the whole. I'll just move on to some of the key policies for consideration. Policy GP2 is about allowing a range of compatible uses in each designation. And similarly, policy RP13 talks about permitting uses that are suitable for a rural area. So I talked about how things like, like a wedding venue, it's a classic, it's classic for rural lots, like, I was thinking the Round Barn in Truro is a great example of it. The GP4 is about supporting rural areas of town, and so by permitting a larger range of uses, such as supporting an existing vineyard in this case. And then there's policy IM3B, which is about considering the suitability of request in terms of a list of things, but the one that I focused on here is traffic, so that's why there are some considerations of traffic in there. Just to move on, so this is where we are in the process. So, at this step, committee of the whole, this opportunity to ask any questions. But the next step, if this was to continue forward, would be to proceed to first reading in a council meeting in June, public hearing and second reading in July, and then the regulations would be sent off for provincial approval and implementation. So the last slide is a motion. But I'm happy to answer any questions and chat about the application. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
I have a few questions actually, so, and they kind of will lead into one another. But my main question is, you talked about an alternative approach. Instead of opening up land use bylaw, could we not just do the outdoor space permit bylaw? Which
Well,
would be quicker for the owner and the applicant.
so if a place of assembly isn't permitted in the R4 zone, they can't do it because it's not a permitted use.
Okay, so it's not, that's why you have to open up the land use bylaw?
Absolutely need to in order to permit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that leads me to a couple of other questions, which is, and we ran into this, with, I'm gonna get this wrong, but 12 Main Street East, West, Big River Cafe, where we have, residential properties around that rezoning. And my understanding of what used to be called the UARB, but it's not called that now.
Oh, the RID now. Yeah.
Is that if a municipality rezones a section within the land use bylaw, that if another R, like in this instance, if another R4 areas like St. Andrew Street, wanted to do the same thing, it would be very difficult for the municipality to say no. And if we did, they could win on appeal because we've already opened it up to another. Is that
Right.
correct?
Just the part of your question, the first part of your question. So
Yeah.
the idea there is that you would take this property and you would rezone it similar to the Big River Cafe.
Like, no. My example is regarding, and I'll get there, it's more regarding about the aspect that other properties around that would be able to go through the process of exactly what I just said. And get rezoned if they wanted to, for similar use. Because we've already permitted it in that area.
Right, so like in the example that you're giving, you've got the Big River Cafe zone C3.
Yeah, yeah,
And if a neighbor wanted to rezone on a
Right.
similar basis, that they'd be able to do so.
right, and would that not apply for this R4 for another R4 location?
Well, the idea is that what would be permitted for this property would be permitted for all of the properties that I described with the restrictions. And so the idea was, we started off with, okay, can we permit the event space use in the R4 zone? And so we looked at all the properties in the R4 zone and said, it works for some, but not all of them. And so it's sort of like a multi-criteria analysis, like we took different things that we wanted. Where do we think it's appropriate to have this? And then we started to draw areas in town, in the R4 zone, where it's appropriate, so fronting on Highway 2, being on Highway 2, being in the R4 zone. These are the sort of things that we were focusing on. And then we say, it's permitted on all of these properties, and that's part of the idea is instead of just focusing on one property at a time and sort of doing little spot zones. Where we say, oh, we're gonna change the zoning of here, here, here,
Right,
which is not considered good planning practice.
right.
The focus was to permit it everywhere where it's. Appropriate to be permitted, with the idea being that if you're gonna say no to somebody's permitted use, you need to have a strong reason. Why? So if it's permitted on this property, why shouldn't it be permitted on a similar property?
And that's my question.
Well, that's how this is designed to function.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in essence, it could happen on the end of St. Andrew's Street.
Yeah, well, no, because, could you go back to that slide where there's the different green areas in town,
This one or different?
this one, yeah, so. If you go down, so it's only in the green properties in town where it would be.
Right, but my question is this. So if I own 300 acres at the end of St. Andrew's Street, I'm in an R4 zone. We have the ability to have an outdoor assembly in an R4 zone. Yes, it has a restriction of highway 2. If the municipality declined my application on my 300 acres on the R4 zone in St. Andrew Street, I could appeal that, correct?
Well, I suppose, but in terms of, so, you had described, an application to rezone a property.
Right.
And that's something that would go to, town council. This is something that the development officer would approve or decline. And so long as they're following the requirements of the land use bylaw, then. Those are the requirements of the land use bylaw. I think if somebody came to council and said, I have this property over here and I would like to have the assembly use be permitted. It
Right.
would be a process similar to this where they would go in front of council. And if council declined that, then I think it would be appropriate grounds for appeal, but I wouldn't expect somebody to be able to win an appeal where they say, I wanna build this in a use where it's not permitted and I don't wanna go through a process.
No, no, I'm not,
Okay,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm not saying they didn't go through the process, Jacob. What I'm saying is, they've gone through the process. The municipality says no. They can then point to another section in that municipality, whether it's our municipality or whatever. And say, well, it's permitted there, why can't it be permitted here? And my concern is traffic quiet. Especially you have a subdivision of young families close to that area. So those are my concerns. Because I understand that this could go until 2 AM in the morning according to our current noise bylaw. We have many healthcare workers in our town and surrounding areas. And we've heard that regarding different rezonings and, previously. So I just want to make sure that we were looking, you had said there's an alternative approach, and that's why my first question was, could we not just do the outdoor assembly permit bylaw?
Right, so certainly we would need to permit the place of assembly use in the R4 zone, that's sort of the first thing. But the way that I like to think about, if you're an applicant, you're trying to do something on your property, like I use the example, you're trying to have an outdoor event space over here, and you're adamant that you can do it. The question really isn't, can it be permitted, but how can it be permitted, right? So the first step is to have it permitted, as of right, which is what this would be, there's no special approvals process. If you're in this green area like this, right, like the subject property. But the second would be, if it's not permitted, then you can bring it to, council.
Right.
To amend the plan, there's no setup for development agreement or these other things. And so that's what they would have to do. And so the only way that I think somebody could apply to do this, be denied, have it be appealed, is if they appeal a meeting much like this.
Okay.
And so that's when it would come down to it, council's following their policies. And so that's sort of.
So you said that they've already been given temporary permits to hold outdoor spaces.
They've been issued one temporary permit, I don't believe they
Okay.
held temporary, they hadn't held it yet, or they never held it, I should say.
So they haven't, so there's been no temporary permits given then.
A temporary permit was given, but the event was never held.
Okay, so there was one approved. So I guess my question is we can do a temporary permit, but we can't do just the outdoor. I'm trying to do this as quickly as we can for the proponents so that they don't lose the summer season.
Your questions that you're asking, we had at PAC.
Okay, well, I'm not on PAC,
Yeah,
so.
the big thing with the PAC is, as Councilor Osborne is saying, you know, the R4 properties that are down there. And we kept going back to how do you do this where you don't have them coming down St. Andrews, if somebody on St. Andrews wanted to do this because they're R4. And we got into the traffic, you know, you just can't have that much traffic going down St. Andrews because the residential and all the people and everything that are living there. So what did we do in this motion to change that?
Yeah, I guess that's why I'm looking at why are we not just doing the permit bylaw, which would enable them to hold outdoor assemblies, like weddings and stuff this season. Opposed to opening up the whole land use bylaw, which then is a much longer process. That's my question, like, why?
Excellent location and it's
Yeah.
no different than our community center. They're all on highway two. But what do you do about St. Andrews? Or going out Main Street West, that's R4 into
Yeah.
down into Kent and down out, you know,
But would
Main
no-
Street
wouldn't the permit take care of that?
Which, the outdoor event permit?
Yes.
Well, the purpose of the outdoor event permit is to restrict. It does not enable.
Okay.
It puts restrictions and says you can't have speakers that are right next to somebody's walls and these sorts of things. Ultimately, you need to have approval in the zone for the land use. If it's a temporary permit, typically those are only issued once a year
For a year or for like
for
for
one
all-
event a year.
for one event?
It's not designed for a business whose intent is to have a recurring series of events going on, and same goes for, it's maybe flexible on the planning side, but on the building inspection side, you know, I've heard from one of the building inspectors
Mhm.
for the town of Stewiacke that more than one temporary event permit per year is not allowed, because the requirements for
Mhm.
safety evacuation fire are higher and they need to be met.
So what about the quiet hours within the bylaw, the outdoor permit bylaw? I'm gonna call it permit bylaw and land use.
Sure. yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
so in the permit bylaw, what about the quiet hours? I mean, I know it says that it's exempt from the noise bylaw, which makes perfect sense. However, how can we mitigate the 2 a.m. when you potentially have younger families? I know there's a young family that lives across the street. Younger families that, potentially could, you know, as you said, noise travels. And although that subdivision is not in town, it is in the county, it neighbors us. And how do you mitigate that?
right. So the decision to follow the hours of the Stewiacke noise bylaw, originally it was actually a set number of hours that ended at 10 p.m.
Right.
It was PAC's recommendation to have it follow the requirements of the noise bylaw, and I don't mean to speak for PAC, but staff's recommending it, and it agrees with PAC's recommendation because it's consistent. Where somebody is able to have noise on the property during these hours, if it's inappropriate on one property versus an assembly space, perhaps it suggests that the bylaw itself needs to be amended.
The noise bylaw, is
And
that what you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
the noise bylaw.
this is no different than, I have the community center in my backyard. And I've attended or listened to many people's weddings because the music, it's right in my backyard. So to me, this isn't any different. I just wanna make sure that we can go through the same process if somebody in an R4 that's not in this green area, if they want to do this, they could go through the same process as we're going through for this
You can always amend the plan to get something
Perfect.
on a parcel, it's just a question of impact, it'll be accepted.
I just don't wanna make sure that anybody else that's out there in the R4 down St. Andrews are thinking, I'm getting excluded or I'm not allowed to do this. Well, you would just have to go through the same process as we're going through for this particular project.
If I could just say one thing, the, the regulations are sort of involved, they're sort of complicated. And, it really just has to do with the way that the plan is laid out. So there are four properties that are very rural, very out of town, there are four properties that are residential neighborhoods, and so. If this plan were to be reviewed and changed, the layout could be structured in a way in which it's a bit more consistent. And is a little bit more precise, and perhaps this bylaw will change to reflect that, it could probably be a lot simpler, but. For the time being, and in the interest of time, the regulations seem to cover PAC's concerns while permitting the use in a way that. Both works for the applicant, but would work for similar cases in the interest of fairness.
Right. Of course, after the motion, I'll make the motion. I would like to make the motion that council proceed with the first reading for the town of Stewiacke alarm use bylaw to be amended as per Schedule 1, which we didn't put a copy of Schedule 1 up, but we do have it in our package. And that the adopting to the outdoor event permit bylaw as per Schedule 2, which pertains to the noise and the use and all that kind of stuff.
So as a member of the PAC, I will second it.
Dr. Osborne, were you going to say something?
I have clarification, because it says. That council proceed, so is the recommendation?
To the
Yes.
June meeting.
Okay,
Proceeds with the recommendation for the first reading.
Any other comments on this? All right, all in favor? What's that? All right, item 11B is the recreation committee, also will hand that over to Mayor Glasso.
Yeah. We have just for everybody, as well as everybody online, put the town day schedule. Out there for council to view if you had any question.
really, the only question I have is about the food trucks.
Yes.
So is there a cost for the food trucks? Like, do people have to pay to get food from the food trucks?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
you would have to purchase your food that you wanted from the food trucks.
Just so people are aware that you actually have to bring money to get
We
food
are,
from the
we
food
are
truck.
not sure how many we are going to have. Because we're a mosaic, I know we've tried to get like a hamburger, hot dog, maybe fish and chips, tacos kind of thing. We're still waiting for confirmation, but there will be food trucks over on the church parking lot. And they will have food items and ice cream and pop and that for sale.
You would just add that to the agenda for sale, so people know that it's not free.
Any further comments on that? Right, we will move on to item number 12, council updates. I'm gonna open the floor up for council for updates. I'll start with Mayor Glasser. Any updates, please?
1 second, please.
Okay.
All right, I've got a couple of things here, been busy, we met with, CAO and I had met with the, Atlanta Hurdle and a finance minister in regard to a bunch of business discussions in Churro, it wasn't last week, it was the week before. It has a bit to do with Stewiacke, but it was more to do with the, residential farming community and that sort of stuff, but the topic still went to business, which I thought was quite good and I enjoyed it. We have had our mayors and chiefs breakfast. The topics on our mayors and chiefs breakfast, we have provincial budget cuts and effects, we had tourism, we had economy and business development, as well as public transit. Now, my personal question that I got was all about amalgamation. I just want the community to know that staff and council is still exploring, talking to, anybody that we can, the MLA, I've been talking with, both the mayors in Colchester County and in Truro in regards to amalgamation. Staff has been talking with, the other communities that are out there, going through amalgamation, so we're trying to get as many pros and cons. As well, we are listening to the communities when they are emailing in questions. I now we can talk a little bit about, going back to a little bit of the stuff that's being online. The taxes, the tax system we know in Nova Scotia is broken. Staff and, myself and council, we know that the Stewiacke system is broken, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to sit down and all discuss a better tax system for Stewiacke. I'm hoping that we're going through short-term pain for long-term gain, and we can maybe come up with a better tax system for Stewiacke in the future. I attended the multicultural event that was at the community center on the weekend. It was great, lots of people there. We had a lot of fun. And we have the craft fair coming up this weekend, Saturday, May the 3rd at the craft fair from, I'm not sure of the hours, Aaron. I believe it's 10 till, I don't even want to quote the hours. It's at the community center on Saturday. Hope to see you all. And that's about all I have.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Well, as everybody should know, I was away for quite a few weeks, so I have not.
Okay, Councilor Osborne?
I attended the community connecting event last weekend, and it was extremely well attended, and I just want to thank Aaron and the South Colchester Health Board for putting that on. It was a wonderful event.
Councilor Rogers?
No, nothing for me.
All right, there is no in-camera session tonight, so I will adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:11. And there will be a 5-minute recess, and we will have our council meeting after that.
Pam.
All right, welcome back.
Oh, she's not on yet.
There you go.
Are we on?
Mhm.
Hey, welcome back. We will start our council meeting portion of the evening at 8:19. Call the meeting to order 8:19. In attendance, we are all here. Are there any changes to the agenda?
I'll make that motion that we accept the agenda for the council meeting Thursday, May the 28th, 2026, as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Others? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Disclosures of interest, are there any disclosures of interest on the agenda? I see none. The approvals of meeting of the, pardon me, approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. Are there any questions or changes to the minutes from the council meeting April 23rd, 2026? I see none. There are no announcements. There are no presentation. There are no written correspondence. We have no citizens left in this portion of our meeting. I will pass it over now. We'll move into business to Councillor Roberts.
Okay, so at our last meeting, we discussed the new rental policy that has the subsidy values broken out into 3 different categories based on whether it's municipal or internal event, nonprofit or community group, or private and commercial group. We did have a discussion on that at our last meeting, but if anyone has any discussions.
So what are we doing now? We're moving a motion?
We're having discussion first. If you we're discussing the motion if you like, or pardon me, discussing the
Change,
the
yeah.
change that's going to be made to the bylaw and policy.
And then we're gonna have a motion, see.
Yes, we will.
Okay. A couple people have talked to me about this, and I will vote no to any changes until it's revisited. I did some checking to see exactly what some people find disadvantage. Number one, we didn't consult anybody. And I think it's really not transparent, and it's really not fair that we didn't go talk to people and see how they're using the community center. Can they afford any of the changes that we're suggesting? I think that's an issue of transparency. I did talk to a number of individuals, and part of what I discovered, which I already knew, I suppose, is even though they didn't pay rent, anything that's left over, they have been donating it, particularly to the food bank. And what bothers me in one sense, if we, for example, the people did the play, and they were there approximately 70 hours at $30 an hour, would preclude perhaps them giving any money to the food bank. And so some charitable organizations may lose some financial support. The food bank is not one that we should be having that happen to. And that was the same thing as the community meal. Any money left over, they would give it to the food bank. But they also one year bought 42 pajama sets, and they were utilized through the library, which meant that, I don't know, 42 families anyways, 42 little ones got pajama sets. So the people who are using the facilities that we're going to say to them, we want $30 an hour, we're forgetting how much they have contributed behind the scenes to different organizations. I also think that a lot of the conversation, I think, has been somewhat negative as opposed to positive. In other words, what are these organizations bringing to the town? What is positive about them? The people who go see the play. I wasn't there this year, but I'm going to imagine 100, 125 people had a great time going to see the play. There's the children's play. Light Point Church makes their facilities open for them, but they were able to find some money from one of our community businesses to do some renovations at the hall. And they were glad to do it on behalf of the children, but even they, are widely, people go and see the children. So there's a lot of positive things being done by these groups. But, and then we go into, the groups that use it every day. I did some calculations. In our budget, we're gonna spend $23,213 on the ball field, on the trails, and the splash pad. So any rental money that we may receive from any of these groups, whether it be, the play people, community supper people, the mums and tots, the cadets or whatever, is not even gonna come near to $23,213. And so, I raise a question about that as well, that we're not asking the ball field, the trails and splash pad to cover their usage. So why are we asking other groups that use the town or the community center to help cover some of the expenses? The building has to be maintained. There's nothing we can do about that. The only real expense sometimes is turning the lights on and using the propane. And those costs I don't think would amount to $23,213. So I would prefer that this be referred back to the bylaw and policy committee for further examination in light of some people becoming upset that they were not made aware of all these changes that are coming their way. As I believe we wouldn't see the play being done if we had to charge them $30 an hour. The children wouldn't be doing their thing or move it down to Life Point. And I wonder how many other groups would stop using the community center that benefit our children here in this community. And almost all these people that are utilizing this, at the end of the day, they're taxpayers themselves. So they're paying their taxes. And we're saying, oh no, you pay your taxes, but we're gonna cut back on your ability to use the community center. That's my opinion. So anyway, I think it should be referred back to bylaw and policy. I think the greater community, all these groups should have the ability to make comments.
Do you have any other questions? Comments?
Just clarification, were they consulted? Cause
They were not, to my knowledge.
I know at the last meeting, we did kind of briefly talk about maybe doing a pool to help with some of the youth groups. Maybe set aside $2,000. I think it was Mayor Glasser that actually brought that up. Did we give that any thought?
Since the last meeting, no.
Yeah,
If I may, Mr. Mayor. Okay. I think the starting point of how we would work with the groups using it would be $23,213, which we put in our budget to support the ball fields, the trails, and the splash pad. So we're already committing a whole chunk of money to those programs. And I can't see, no offense to Aaron or Ben, being out there to watch somebody use a trail and say, I need a donation, can you put a toonie in my hand? Or the splash pad, I can't imagine that happening. Ball field, no, I don't know about that. But all I'm trying to say is we're asking some people to help us out, maybe financially, if that's the goal, but others, maybe not. And so I would suggest that whatever money is set aside for the communities, for all the groups that are using it, we would consider $23,230 as the top level. If they use more than that, then I think it would be fair to say we're going to charge you $30 an hour. But $2,000 is a long way from $23,000. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other?
if I may.
Yep.
I do think we should probably have consulted the youth groups in particular. Is this impacting what we just did in the committee of the whole as far as our budget? So would it be possible for maybe doing a survey or something of the youth groups to see if it's going to impact their numbers. I don't know.
But we'd also have talked to people who do the plays.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the youth groups than I am for-profit groups.
Yeah, well, that was the whole
That,
thing.
does that makes, did I say that right?
Essentially, yes. And the youth groups are still at $15 an hour, which we did compare other areas and it was lower.
Yeah.
If not on par than what any other place would be.
But the play people and the people who do the meals, that's a nonprofit, that, they don't make a profit. If any money left over, it goes back to the food bank or other places.
Correct, but they could, like if I'm going to
They
attend the
could.
play, but I don't know that. I'm going to attend the play and I'm spending $100 on a ticket. Or
Yeah.
whatever the cost is.
But we,
So in my books, it is profit because I am spending $100 to attend this.
but we could make that as a provision of understanding that they have to provide us with financial benefits.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're the,
Go ahead, sorry.
the thing, when we were looking at the play, it is a for-profit. They give to the Legion, which is a nonprofit, and to the Garden Club, you know. At the same time, we as a community are losing potential rent because they're in the building. So they're paying a nominal fee. That's the whole, anybody that's nonprofit or whatever, things are cut in half. But anybody that is for-profit, from what my understanding out of the meeting was, they should pay $30 an hour. That's what I got out of our
That
meeting.
was, and it was the, you know, like the yoga instructor, that anybody
And yeah,
would.
and both Aaron and Rebecca have checked with the different rates for different places, and we are with what we are changing, we're going to charge, we are in line with other communities. We are not giving it away for free, and we are not asking any more money than the other communities are getting for their centers. That is the way I understood it.
Well, I disagree. I think they're nonprofit. And I think that they benefit the community far beyond what we give them credit for. And any resources they give to the food bank only makes the town look good. Because we've allowed them to use their facilities, anything that's left over, they give to the food bank or they give to the Legion. They buy pajamas for the children, they provided financial assistance for the school. I had it all written down, but you get the drift. The money doesn't stay there. But I do hear what you're saying and perhaps a financial statement.
I think we would have mixed reviews if you did a poll versus how many people are gonna say, yes, I want it because my kids are in it, and then the people that are here that don't have any kids, you know, are gonna say, why should I as a taxpayer have to pay for somebody else's kids? I don't have any kids. It's like, I don't have any kids, but I still have to pay my taxes towards the school. I don't think that's fair. They say the same thing about our community center. Why does one group get it and the other group doesn't?
Yeah.
We're just trying to look for something that's fair. I know that these guys worked hard on it. We are no different than any other community.
My father, been passed away for 25 years, has the same argument. People came to him and saying, why are we supporting the school? Why are we paying money for? And he said, because if you didn't do it, I wouldn't have grade 11 education. You know, for somebody who grew up in the early 40s, in the late 30s, big deal. It's a big deal. And I actually have met a woman.
We're getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, me personally, I will put the motion forward because we worked exceptionally hard on this. This did come back to the bylaw and policy committee for, I'd say, a solid 4 months. Easily, with more research done, more work looking at other communities, trying to do a somewhat fair, as fair as we thought, deemed. That wasn't an astronomical amount, the $15 for registered nonprofits like cadets, and I don't think that's unreasonable. It's basically covering the cost of lights for an hour and a half or whatever is up there. We're not making money off of it by any stretch. So I will put the motion forward that we adapt the rental policy 2021-47 to the tier 1 tiered user classification model as outlined.
Second that.
Mm,
I can second it.
Sorry.
Can I have some, are you gonna ask for discussion? Sure.
Oh,
Maybe.
me? Oh, okay, discussion. I thought it was her, maybe she would do it. Discussion?
Just, uh, I guess for me, it's, again, and I brought this up the last meeting, was more about the youth groups. I don't wanna see us lose any of our youth groups going up there. Have you, and through the mayor to, Ms. Richard, have you had any feedback from the cadets regarding this potential change? Are they aware?
They are not aware. They provided the letter to the mayor in December about free of charge rental continuing forward.
Oh.
I haven't, I haven't directly told them that this is going forward right now. The seniors at Paint Club and geez Louise, a couple other events up there know about it and they are quite upset about it.
The seniors,
Yes.
because they can't afford it?
Yes, and the community meals was also a topic that they came forward with about having to charge for that.
So I don't understand what seniors, so go on.
So
Sorry,
we have the Cherioga, they're
but
upset.
that's profit.
Profit, yes, and they don't want it to go up, so right now they've been, yeah, anyways, so that's their concern, there's
Yeah.
a paint club that goes up there, they don't wanna have to pay for that.
And who puts that on?
They have now ownership of that, we used to run that
Who
ourselves, the
has-
town, it's just a group of senior ladies up there. Doing, there's 6 of them, they paint, they socialize, it's part of,
So it's just a nonprofit?
yes,
Okay, so
Yeah.
they would go to 15
yes,
and we were giving it to them for free?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
And that being said, the chair yoga and other yoga on
Yeah.
Friday afternoons, to my understanding,
They make a lot of money.
is not relatively cheap,
No,
because I do know a couple women who attend.
Yeah.
And they do pay per hour.
yeah.
And the amount that attend that would more than cover
Oh, yes.
the $30 rental fee. So to me, that's.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's not the it's not the for-profit that I'm worried about, it's the youth groups that I'm worried about. Did we see that letter that came from the
It did come in
cadets?
December,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
I got it, and I gave it to Aaron and talked.
So right now, the youth groups up there would be the cadets, and then there's a youth volleyball team that uses the facility once a week for the school year as well.
Okay,
So those would be the most impacted youth groups.
What about the mums and tots?
There as well, it's a Maggie's Resource Center, they're not so much as a youth group, more of a family resource.
yeah, I'd asked about that one before. I guess those would be my concerns, is just about the youth groups. And what can we do to ensure that we are supporting our youth and our future leaders? And if that is going to be cost prohibitive, what can we do about it?
And I forgot. How does this align with our MOU to be supportive of seniors, recreation, within the community? An MOU that we signed and agreed to, that said we would provide opportunities, for seniors, young people, recreation. We put it in there, we agreed to that in our MOU, so how does what we're now proposing sit with our MOU?
Yeah, I know what they're.
We do have in our MOU that we're supporting of opportunities for recreation of senior and youth and family. Whether that be breaking barriers for facility costs or offering or introducing more programs to the community, so that is in there,
But it's in there, but
yes. We, council would want to have to look at, we just increased our budget on oil by $14,000,
I'm quite
So-
aware,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's not, we're not supporting them. I mean, it's still a $15 an hour fee. It's, you can't, I'm sorry, you can't rent any space for $15 an hour. So to me, it is still a supportive thing.
Can't get a babysitter for
We're,
$20.
we're not pricing ourselves out so that it's completely unreasonable. It's a very minimal amount that just, as I said,
It's
leaves the lights on for an hour and a half.
great. Any more discussion? You did the motion, you second it, all in favor? Carried.
Record my name.
Thank you. All right. Moving on. Council updates, Council Rogers, anything to say?
No, nothing.
Councilor Osborne?
Nope.
Councilor.
No, thank you, no.
Well, I did all my talking last meeting, so we will move to go into our in-camera session at 8:40.
Would you like a motion?
Oh, sorry. Can I get a motion to go in camera?
I'll make that motion that we go in camera at 8:40.
I can
Thank you.
second that.
Yeah. All right, we'll go into our in-camera session now.